Okay, let's look a little bit at well, I'll say seasons, but I really mean the elements. Um, earth, fire, water, and air. Um, and then, of course, you have the ethers. But in my meditation earlier, what kind of came to me was if you kind of cross section the human body, right, as our kind of spaceship vehicle through this dimension. You have the bottom half, the root chakra, all of that kind of symbolizes earth. You have above that, I would deem fire. Above that, I would deem water, and above that, I would deem earth, or excuse me, air. And then above that, or all encompassing, is the ethers. So we could start accordingly. Of course, there are also other kind of understandings of that, as the expressions of the zodiac can be understood top down, head to toe. But for the purposes of just the elements in and of themselves, we'll start with that kind of model based off the groundedness of the root chakra, or just groundedness in general, earthen, stability, safety, comfort. We've been speaking a lot to that as far as the expression of the Queen of Pentacles, the Knight of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, and how to embody that energy. You may even want to practice meditations where you focus on your root chakra, opening, expanding. And that might actually act as a better landing ground for your blessings and your manifestation, financial opportunities that you couldn't even fathom. So that's something to experiment with your energy centers. So we'll start with Earth. You could also kind of take this as a wholesale, but feel free to apply this to the zodiac as well, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. But I primarily want to make this just a general for the element of Earth. Okay. Which again, we all hold those elements because all of the zodiac is within us. All of the houses are expressed in our lives and in all our different aspects of our lives, and etc., etc. It's all one big kind of mishmash, hodgepodge, in a good way. So this is for Earth. Okay, you have Cancerian Leo here. King of Sword energy, quick to get up, kind, warm, mature. I always picture the traditional image in the tarot of the King of Wands, where he's kind of leaning forward, intrigued, gentlemanly, kind, non-gender specific. You have the tear imagery, and we know that the tear imagery in modern culture represents someone that has some bodies in their name. This king has the sword here. Okay, this king has the sword here. Quick to get up, doesn't really, is a king, but to the extent that almost feeling like he wants to get up and take action. Is intriguing here. All of these elements have to be channeled, right? The earth is the root, how deep your roots are. And it's my contest that or my conceit, and I contest that can be worked on and expanded upon energetically. Okay. Now this king is deeply rooted in the lineage of, we'll know it as the wands, the suit, the hierarchy that he comes from, right? This is all archetype symbology. But the question is, why does the king get up and move, right? If he doesn't have to. There must be something that he knows. I'm also getting like a synergistic effect, like the combining of the wand and the sword, the pen and the sword. We've been speaking a lot to that. It's been coming across as a conversion process through the grounding, right? If the sword is the thought and the electrical, the wand is, yes, known as fire, following your passion, knowing what to ground into your reality. And so you see how we're touching on all the elements here. But what are we missing? We're missing the water, right? And it's so funny because I was just thinking earlier about earth, wind, and fire. Earth, air, and fire. When I was meditating, I shit you not, it came across as earth, wind, and fire. But we're missing the water. And the water is the bonding molecule. It's also life-sustaining, feeding. It's a conduit, a conductor. Almost as if like a conductor in front of a symphony as well. Playing with our emotions or creating movement in the emotional space here. So it's very interesting because what's coming across here more so is the emotional, almost as if it's missing here. If we're speaking to fire, groundedness, and sword here. But hilariously enough, we do have it featured here. We have it featured here in the tier. Is that not like bonanzas? I know people watching this, they always want to be like, what is this guy, like, he's like teaching tarot, energy, like metaphysics, like, this is why I do this shit, because you find shit like this all the time. And you're like, okay, so what, but how do I balance that application? Well, that's what we're trying to piece together here and understand so we can apply this to our lives and live an awesome fucking life. Filled with thought and meaning and purpose and reason and all that shit. The water is expressed here in sadness, though. But we've spoken to sadness only comes when we believe in the view that we're shown and given here. Sadness only comes from a misrepresentation or a misinterpretation that life gives to us, veiled, right, is the greater image, such as with afterlife, things like this. So what? We're at the so what point. Spirit, so what? Someone could be concerned, letting their concerns and their worries get the best of them. Okay. I don't want to say it as simple as, faith and trust, but we did speak to the King of Swords the other day in a similar position where no matter how bleak things look, 911 on the clock, this king knows better here. And he might even know better than the King of Swords in this expression, at least with this deck, it's utilizing other elements here, all of the elements. I need to use all of the elements for this. And it almost appears as though that we can never consciously know all at once. We have to throw caution to the wind, and we have to fly by the seat of our pants in some ways and know and trust that we have ingrained, instilled, learned, integrated certain knowledge, certain wisdom, so that it comes out at the right time. Right? We can't consciously keep everything here while we're existing. And another download that came through earlier was that when you are like in the twilight zone of like about to wake up or about to go to sleep, those are like the coaching moments. Those are the moments to coach the self, set the program, right, of the positive affirmation and intention when you're waking up in the morning. And then, of course, taking care measures of throughout the day. If you practice meditation, I just did a little 11:11 on the clock here, 30-minute meditation earlier. Let the brain, open and receive downloads. Let the brain reboot and clean itself. You don't have to think, okay, but you may witness thoughts come before you. I just like to tell myself, look at the back of your eyelids with your eyes closed. But this king, again, is coming across as, and he could be sad for the fact that someone else is sad on his behalf here, but I feel like the king, one could argue that the water coming out in this form, almost as if it's being suppressed or oppressed or repressed, whatever the right word is, maybe he has a knowing or an inner vision, a bigger vision for why all of this is happening. Or understands that it's dutiful to make a certain sacrifice. And not for the sake of we believe that we have to sacrifice at the altar of the gods in order to get something in return. It's not that kind of sacrifice. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the clock. That's Old Testament type, kill your firstborn son type. This knows that in order for this person to be in its full power, thinking of the linearly in the hierarchy, it's almost as if he had to slay the queen before him. And usually, if we're thinking about hierarchy, the queen before is the king's mother, to my surface level knowledge or understanding. And it's almost as if in this lifetime, this person has to have slayed that for the betterment of maybe the overall general inheritance, 1333, of a kingdom or a bloodline or a lineage or a justice for all. In literature, there's a saying called kill your babies, where something is cute to you or quiche to you, or you love it, you fall in love with it, but to the point of it blinds you. Okay. And so it's almost as if this king in the making, or to be, understood, I have to kill this comfort zone if I have any chance of survival for myself, thrival for myself, inheriting of the kingdom for myself. And then we could also go into all the biblical, understandings of, I want to say interpolations, but I gotta refresh my memory on the definition of that word. I don't want to use it incorrectly, but this 9 of Sword is coming across as an external characterization, representation of what this king had to slay. in order to achieve the height of his King of Sword. King of Wand here, because he's coming through as both. So, but it's greater than just the bloodline inheritance. It's the knowledge of the kingdom of heaven here and now as a conscientious choice, philosophically, worldview wise. And this actually is a better unfolding than the story would have unfolded as if this false queen, Nine of Swords in the upright, were never sacrificed. Was never the emotional bondage never sacrificed or done without or overcome or removed from. Now, there are higher expressions of this, versions of this, and there's a lower version of this, right? The lower version of this is when sacrifice is done in ignorance. Or we'll call them like the breaking of soul contracts. But in the higher aspect, this can be through the action of the fool who has the background and the coding for this. This is why we get into the talk of like a rightful heir to the throne. Because it's almost bestowed by virtue. And in human understanding, we consider that as divine, right? I'm going to leave this here. I'll roll this video over to the next. I have an incoming call that I got to take.